In this video, we're going to show you how we go about creating our super logo designs. Now, I'm going to provide this beginning template for you as a free download, so you'll be able to access the same template that I'm working with. I do want to point out a couple of things to you. If you're not already aware, you can see here at the top of our CorelDRAW, we have a custom toolbar. And to get to that custom toolbar, what we're going to do is show you how to access that and other design files quite easily on our website. So if we click on the Rhinestone Design Shop link, in the upper left-hand corner, there's a search box. And to access our custom toolbar, you're just going to type in Workspace, and that will take you to that custom toolbar. You'll actually install it as a workspace. You'll see when we click on that, there's a video that shows you exactly how to go about installing the workspace once you've downloaded it. So if you're not already aware of how this search works, any design that we want to create, if we search for it first, we can find it quite easily. So someone had asked previously about a Cardinals super logo. So if we type in Cardinals, I remembered that I did this design quite some time back, the vinyl design that we could use for our super logo design. Now, we're not actually going to use this one, but I just wanted to show you how you can easily find what you're looking for just by using a few different keywords here on the EasyStone website. So once we get this file uploaded, you're just going to want to type in super logo. And of course, right now there are a couple super logos already. You can see here we have the Madison Super Fund that kind of started it all. And you can see some of the different super logos that we already have here. So let's get back into CorelDRAW here. Now, I do want to point something out to you before we really get into designing. When you're doing a setup for vinyl, anytime that you have a color touching another color, you have to kind of allow for that. If I double click here on that orange, I don't know if you can see this very well, but there's another line here. You can see like a little dotted line. And basically what that's telling us is the gray is slightly overlapping the orange. If we go into wireframe mode, if you look at where that connection is between those two colors, if we go into wireframe mode, you'll see there's an additional line to the inside, and that is how much the gray is overlapping the orange. Now, the orange doesn't actually overlap the white or this lighter gray color because you can see it goes from here to here. So the orange is sitting on top, totally on top, whereas here the dark gray is touching the orange, and therefore we have to allow for that extra allowance of overlap. And you can see that overlap does happen on all four sides of the design here. Okay, so I just want to kind of point that out to you. It's important that when you go to build this file on your shirt, lay down the first color, the second color, and the third color, that you know that there's a little bit of room for a little bit of adjustment there. So what do we want? I want to show you a couple of different designs to give you a good overview of some of the different things that you can do with a very simple beginning point if you have just a little bit of CorelDRAW skills. So we had a request. Let me make a duplicate of this. We had one request for a letter. Actually, we had a request for several letters, actually. But the first letter I'm going to do is just a simple letter T. We're going to go into our font manager here in EasyStone just because I'm used to working with it. And there's a font that I want to use called Bow Socks. So we'll go ahead and make our T a little bit bigger. Now, we will go ahead and set our T in here as big as we want in relationship to the super logo itself. So we'll do something like that. Now I'm going to hold the Shift key and select my light gray color and hit C. And that will center my T left to right of the overall design. Now, the next thing we want to do, and I will generally recommend you do this every time. In this particular example, we wouldn't technically have to, but if you get in the habit of the same repetitive steps over and over again, you'll see it's quite easy to make these. So what we're going to do is we're going to select our T. We're going to come in here and do a boundary object, and that creates a boundary of our T. And then what we're going to do is do a contour to the outside. Now this contour is just something we're just going to click and drag, and we want it to be roughly the same width as this is from the dark to light gray here. Roughly the same width. Then we're going to right click on that and break contour group apart. Now in this case, the original artwork wasn't, you can see this is kind of weird that it just juts off here. So we're going to have to touch that up a little bit. Some of these you might want to go around and touch up a little bit before we take that next step. And then you might not. It might not matter that much. It just kind of depends on what your end result is. But then what we'll do is we'll take that border, hold our shift key and select the dark gray and trim. Then we're going to hold that border, hold the shift key and the light gray and weld. And there we go. That is the basis of our logo. So now it's just a matter of determining what colors we want. Well, let's just say, for example, I want kind of a pink color there, and orange will do pink, and this maybe we'll do in white. We need to get rid of our boundary. Actually, yeah, we'll get rid of our boundary, and then we'll turn that pink. That's what we need. Let's add a weed box. Let's go ahead, make a duplicate. Just select the whole logo, drag it over, and right click to make a duplicate. Then we're going to use Easy Stone to do a quick proof for us. So you can see it went ahead and created our weed box, a little bit of a drop shadow on our design. Also added a watermark that we can then go ahead and export a proof image for this. So we'll go ahead and do that. We select our design, export proof image, and we'll call it Super T. Save it as a separate CorelDRAW file. And there we go. Okay. Now to actually make our vector output file, we're going to select our entire logo with the weed box, export vector file, and then just click on the button to export. I'm going to export in EPS and SVG always. And there we go. So you can see now we have our color separations. This is the light gray here is white. And then we have our pink, and then we have our dark gray as well. So our color separations are ready to go. And then on the desktop, you will see we have our original CorelDRAW file, and then you'll see that we have the different separations here for EPS and SVG. And of course, we have our JPEG. So I just select those, compress them to a folder, and now these files are ready to upload to the store. Okay, so it's pretty straightforward going about doing it, but let me show you. Let me close this out. Let's show you another example so you get another idea of what we can do with this. And this is going to be a bit more complex, so we're going to make a copy of our super logo. And this time what we want to do is we want to put in a name. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to grab our text tool here, and I'm just going to type in the name Madison. And we're going to do a name with an athletic tail. So there's the word Madison. We're going to open up our font manager here. And for this particular example, I'm going to use the font called Ballpark. It's one of my favorite script fonts. Now, I do want to point something out to you. When you're working with script fonts, if we go into wireframe mode here in CorelDRAW, you'll notice anytime you're working with a script font, there's a little bit of overlap between each letter. And everything that we see in the outline view here, that's what your cutter is going to cut. And obviously, where these letters overlap, we don't want the cutter to cut at that overlapping area. So we're going to select our text, come in here and choose the weld option. And you can see now all of those overlapping areas have now been welded together, and you won't have to concern that your cutter is going to cut in an area that we don't want it to cut. So just remember to do that anytime that you're working with a script type font, all right, where the letters are going to be connected together. So now what we need to do is we need to add an athletic tail, and this gives me the opportunity to show you that we have an athletic tail for you. So we're going to go back out to the EasyStone website and just type in tail. Love those keywords, right? Takes us right to our athletic tails. Now, these athletic tails that we're providing were not created by us, but I did reach out to Tom over at advancedtshirts.com. There's a link to his website, and he has a lot of graphic related stuff and different plugins and stuff for Illustrator and CorelDRAW. But these athletic tails were offered on Advanced T-shirts as an EPS file, and I asked Tom if I could convert these into a font so that'd be a little bit easier to work with when we wanted an athletic tail. And he did give me that permission to share those with you. So you can download those are a free download there on the EasyStone website. So what we're going to do here, let me show you how we go about using this. We're just going to type in capital letters A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Every letter in the alphabet has a different type of athletic tail. So we'll go back into our font manager here, and it's the very first option here. You see it right there. It says athletic tails. But at any rate, I'm going to break apart. That's see where it says break apart rhinestone text. Just click on that button, and now each tail is available separately to manipulate individually. But I'm gonna use the tail for the letter B, and I'm gonna stretch this tail out a little bit, and we can click and rotate it a little bit. And basically what we're looking is some kind of connection here at the end of Madison, and we can stretch this tail out again. And again, we can manipulate this however we want to. I'm not actually going to manipulate the shape. I'm just going to kind of manipulate the size a little bit here to get it however I want it to be. And I'm going to be happy with that connection. So I'm going to select that and select those two objects and then hit the weld button here in CorelDRAW. And you can see now we have that connection, and it looks pretty good. I really don't have to do anything else with it. So now what we want to do, let's go back into enhanced mode here, is let's go ahead and set this inside our super logo. So we'll go ahead and stretch this out and kind of position this within the super logo however we want to. And I think I'm going to be happy with that right there for now. And then, just like before, I want you to get in the habit, again, we wouldn't have to do it with this example, but I do want you to get in the habit of creating that boundary object. So we'll go back in here and select our boundary object, and you can see now we've selected just the boundary of Madison there. And then we'll go in with our contour tool and click and drag. And remember that amount of contour, we want to visually be roughly the same as the distance between the dark gray and the light gray, roughly the distance. Now, you can see in what we've done here, I'm going to break this apart, and you can see there's a lot of little bits here. And what we want to do is we want to come in here and get rid of those. So I'm going to select that outline and break it apart and just go in and delete those little bits. Okay, so now we have all those little bits deleted because we don't need those. Now we just have our outline, shift key, dark gray, and trim, shift key, and light gray, and weld. And there you go. And then I think what I'm going to do is this little bit of dark gray, it's the only little bit of dark gray in there. Let's just go ahead and get rid of that. And there we have our finished product. So once again, we are going to throw a weed box around it. We are going to set this to be white. Let's set this to be a pretty pink. Let's set Madison to be a pretty pink. Oops, that's the boundary object that's kind of hidden. So we need to delete that. And now we take our text, go ahead and set it to pink as well. And then we'll leave our gray to be gray. And then we'll go ahead and copy that over and quick proof it. Gives us our little bit of a drop shadow, watermark, everything's all set up there. Now, for those of you who are using EasyStone, one question that I get quite often is how do we set up our watermark after we've already set it up? So, or even to set it up to begin with. We hold the shift key and click on quick proof, and that gives us our watermark options. Okay, so we have that. And you can modify all these different settings and so forth, but I kind of leave it just like it is. So that's how you modify your watermark file, should you need to. All right, so now we've seen a couple of different options. One now where we've added a name with an athletic tail. You've kind of seen the process there. Pretty painless, pretty simple if you know what you're doing. Now we've seen how we can add just a simple letter to the center of our logo. But now I want to show you something kind of special. It's not really that much of a trade secret, but it is kind of a trade secret. So you don't want to miss this. So what we're going to do is jump out here to the internet. Now here's where we get a little crazy, a little goofy, because now we want to just kind of go off and pick something for the center. So we've been getting all kinds of different requests. What about the Dodgers or the Cubs or the Bears or the Saints or just about anything you can imagine? People want tigers or whatever it is. Well, the fact of the matter is, most anything you could dream of, it does probably exist on the internet somewhere, somehow. It's just a matter of finding it. So what we're going to do here is we're going to search for a logo that I know exists, that I know is a fairly usable logo. So what we're going to do in here is we're going to just type in Chicago Cubs SVG. And what you'll find is right here, we see that very first result. We'll go ahead and click on that. And you're going to find this SVG file ready to go for you. All right. And so we could type in, let me just give you an example here. Now, I will tell you, not all these are that good of a file to start with, but some are, some aren't. Let's type in Miami Heat SVG. Click on that. And there is the SVG file for the Miami Heat. So there are a lot of good files available. Let's type in Washington Nationals SVG. So there it is. There's the Washington Nationals SVG. So most of the all of your professional sports teams, they all are going to have an SVG available to them. Now, like I said, I will point out that the Miami Dolphins one was not very usable. It took quite a bit of editing. The Cavaliers one, not very usable. Lakers took quite a bit of editing. So while these files do exist, they're not always the best files to work with. Now, aside from that, what if we just want something generic? So like I want a panther head. So I'm just going to type in panther head SVG and see what we get. Okay. Now, like I said, sometimes you will get something usable. Sometimes you won't. You can see here, this is actually a school panther head. But if you like it, it is available in SVG. Okay. So you just kind of have to look and see, if there's something you like. Now, if we click on images here, I actually fell in love with this panther head right here. Okay, so I'm going to show you this too, kind of off subject just a little bit, but I actually fell in love with this panther head. So I click on that. I hadn't seen this particular profile before, and I don't know why, but I just really liked it. Now, this image is a really small image, and generally speaking, isn't really that good of quality, but let me show you something here. Let's go ahead and I'm just right-clicking on the image and copying it. I'm going to pop back into CorelDRAW here, and I'm going to paste it. Always paste it in the center of the document. That's what CorelDRAW does. And then I'm going to trace it, outline trace, low-quality image. And I was really surprised that it did such a good job. Now, when you're tracing here in CorelDRAW, you do want to pop over here to the Colors tab, and you could see here this really should only be black or white. There shouldn't be this third color. So, being how there is a third color, we do want to select the two light colors and merge them together, so it truly is black and white. Or we could have just number of colors, we could have set that to 2 colors as well. So let's go ahead and accept that. And you can see we actually have a really good usable, and I do like the panther head going in the opposite direction, but we do actually have a really usable panther head. So let me just go ahead and do this. As long as we've gone this far, let's go ahead and just drop it in the middle of our logo so we can see what we're going to do. So we're going to drop it here into our logo. We can set the size of our panther head to be whatever we want it to be. So let's go ahead and do that. Now I do want to go ahead and do that boundary. So we want to do that. There's that boundary. And then we're going to go ahead and offset, again, the approximate thickness between the light and dark. Right click on the boundary and break it apart. Then we're going to select our boundary and our dark. And you can see there's actually an area inside the mouth here that we may want to get rid of later. But let's go ahead and just focus on selecting our boundary and the dark and trim, our boundary and the light and weld. Okay, and then like I said, then we could decide really what we want to do. Let's get rid of our boundary object there. And either we like that, or in my case, I don't. And I'm just going to delete that interior part. So now let's go ahead and throw a weed box around this. And now you can kind of see the result that we got. So we can go ahead and give that white. Let's go ahead and make that black. And you can see we have another great looking super logo. Let's go ahead and do a quick proof on that. And that's ready for the website. We have a nice looking panther head. That's kind of just a generic little panther head there. So now let's go ahead and finish up one more here. I'll bore you to death here, but let's pop back out to, and let's go back to our Chicago Cubs SVG. Because I had a request for that, and I had done it previously, and apparently I did not save it. So we'll go ahead and redo it. So we'll just go ahead right here on the original file. Let's right click and save link as, and that will save us to that SVG. And then we're going to drag and drop that into CorelDRAW. So there it is. We have to ungroup all of it. And if we go into wireframe mode, we can kind of see what this is made of. You can see this had a bit of a problem with it too, because we've got all kinds of outlines. You can see there's one, there's two. So we get rid of all those extra outlines. I'm going to get rid of the trademark part of it. Let's go back to enhance mode here. And so there you can see there is. So once again, we'll group this together. We will center it in our super logo. We will then position it, resize it. Once we're happy with the size of it, then we know what we need to do from there. We need to, I'm going to ungroup it. We need to apply a boundary. We then need to offset that boundary about the same. We then need to select that boundary and the dark and trim, and select the boundary and the light and weld. Ta-da! So that will finish up this one. Let's go ahead and throw a weed box around it. We're going to take this part, make it white. Then we're going to take our blue part here. There's actually a boundary object there we need to delete, but then we can take our blue part here. And we have a couple of options. We can right click, drag out to the orange, and choose copy fill here. That's one option. Or we can select an existing object and come down here where our paint bucket is in the lower right and drag that little color square to whatever we want to and do it like that. So either option gets the job done, right? So we can go ahead and copy that over. Go ahead and turn that into a quick proof. And I had best export this and save it before I forget. So we're going to do Super Cubs. We are going to save that CorelDRAW file, export a 1200 pixel JPEG image for the website. And then we'll go ahead and do our color separations. So we'll go ahead and select that and choose our export vector file. It's going to create us a new page. And you can see here, it's taken on our file name that we just saved, which is our Super Cub file. And we'll go ahead and export that. And you can see the white and the blue and the red color separations are ready to go. Now if we go back to the website here, you'll see all those files are in fact ready to go as well. So we'll just create that zip file. And then I can upload that to the Madison font here in just a bit. So hopefully that gives you a better understanding of how to go about and creating these files. And once you have that initial template set up, ready to go the right way, you can see it's pretty easy to add whatever we want to the center portion if we have just a little bit of CorelDRAW skills. And you don't necessarily need Easy Stone. It does help with the file prep and what have you, makes it super, super simple. But the same thing could be achieved if you only have CorelDRAW. And of course, if you have our Design of the Day membership, keep in mind that EasyStone does come free with our Design of the Day membership. So if you have CorelDRAW and you have our Design of the Day membership and you're not already using EasyStone, it'd be well worth your time to give it a try. Thanks for watching.